Now, just a little warning before we begin here. There are going to be some major spoilers in this video for Rebel Moon Part 1. So if you have not seen it yet and you don't want anything ruined, it's a really good time to click away. Alright, and for this review, I'm actually going to bring in my wife, Sailor Naboo. We have a channel together, as a lot of you know. We're kind of on vacation, so this is going to be a off-the-cuff type video, if you will. And so let's kick it off. What did you think of Rebel Moon?
Oh, it's such a mixed feeling, honestly. I enjoyed my time watching it, and I'm really anxious to see where he's going with his story, how the rest of his world building turns out, because you get this rush of world building at the very beginning to tell you pretty much entirely how this universe is set up.
Instead of an opening crawl, you get Anthony Hopkins and his
reading history
epic
paragraphs,
voice.
yes.
Yeah, basically the same thing, but read to you. Yeah.
Yes. So you get that, and then you launch straight into a story, and it's funny because it reminded me a lot of Eternals in some ways, where you have to go and you have to get this team together.
Yeah.
And everyone you go to, you're like, I have to tell you this story, but they decided we're not going to actually make you listen to them tell the story the whole time. You're going to get a couple seconds to set up, that they've been telling them the story of what they need them for, and then they like, boom, here's some action, and let's move on.
I can't even tell you how many times in my head I said to myself, we're putting together a team, or I'm putting together a team, because that's what this movie was, just putting together a team. I didn't dislike it.
No, I didn't dislike it at all.
It felt like a very long trailer is my biggest problem. There wasn't a lot. It was like, here's our premise, here's all these characters we want to introduce you to, and then like maybe the next movie is going to be like the actual kind of story. I felt this was very light on story, very light on characterization. It was like, it just felt like a checklist. Okay, we need to get this character. We'll give you a little backstory. We'll introduce you a little bit more to this universe. Mm-hmm. We'll give you this character, and we'll do the same. And it just kind of built up to this finale where we captured them, but didn't capture them, and they all get away, and we think happy ending. But no, then we have the very end, almost post-credity scene where Space Hitler is still alive.
Yes, Admiral Noble.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of that, I
he's
thought
not even the big Space Hitler. He's
No, but I thought the costumes were a little too on point with Nazi.
They took some like German Russian influence.
They didn't take just inspiration. They took them and kind of altered them a little, is what it looked like to me. A little too much, I thought there. Like, we get it. We get who they're supposed to be, right? You didn't need to like put them in the actual uniforms.
I guess I was kind of okay with that. I liked how almost every different planet and everything had its own aesthetic choices. You have farmer group. They all dressed in very farmer attire. Then we go to another planet, and they're dressed very differently. Then we go to another place, and this is the gladiator planet, and everyone's dressed like they're in ancient Roman times. And we go to another planet, and they're dressed in this kind of wandering samurai, very Asian influence.
I almost felt too much earthly influence in some of the style choices. A little too much.
They didn't push alien hard enough for you.
Yeah, it felt like Earth expanded into the future. It felt more like a future Earth kind of show than like a different maybe it's supposed to be. I don't know that they made that clear. I mean, they talked about the kingdom, the line of kings for all these 1,000 years.
Well, there's 1,000 kings too.
Yeah,
can't forget that. There's a ton of kings.
Sure, yeah, but my point is, it felt more like a future of our universe than actual different universe, which I don't know if that is intended or not.
I was disappointed in, like we talked about, characterization, because now I'm wondering if all of this extra stuff that Zack Snyder talked about, all of the extra, we're going to be adding the comics, we're adding the podcast. I'm like, is this where we're going to get the story of these characters? I mean, I was really interested in the character of Nemesis. I liked her aesthetic. I liked her lightsaber-y things. She had, like, robot-y type hands. Her arms, like her...
Oh, yeah.
Her arms were definitely like robots. Because, well, she even got stabbed through it, and it was like, oh, it didn't really hurt. I'm like, okay, so she's got, like, robot arms. Her name is Nemesis, a name she adopted. She's a great swordswoman. Her kids were killed by the Empire type thing. But that's all they say. That's all we really get to know about her. I would like to know more of her story, to know where she came from, what she's doing. I don't know. Why her family was killed?
There was very little characterization. You really didn't get to know it was like once you introduce them, they kind of fade to the background, so the other one steps up and takes the center stage.
General Titus, his whole group was like sacrificed or something. Yeah. Okay, moving on.
No, you're exactly right. That's what it felt like. It felt like we were just kind of... We had all this, like... He wanted to establish so many things that he forgot to just make it a story, to make it a movie. That's how I felt.
Yeah,
it
really
felt like a trailer.
Character was Kora.
Yeah. Though maybe if he didn't slow down the movie every time there was any sort of action, we may have had a little time for characterization.
Oh my gosh. Some directors like the lens flare.
Yeah.
Some want to give you crazy explosions.
I can't imagine who you're talking about there, or the first two, JJ and Michael.
Yes.
Michael Bay.
But another one just seems to really admire slow-mo.
Yes, a lot of every time, it started to become a joke. Where like, is he going to slow down? Yep, there it is.
Yeah, there's going to be something.
And then he did a super slow motion.
Oh yeah, when was it Tarok was jumping onto the
bird
onto
creature?
Buckbeak from Harry Potter.
Yeah, there. Yes.
He was jumping onto his hippogriff.
Yes.
And then it slowed down even more. I was like, oh, there it is.
There it is. Extra super slow motion moment.
Extra super slow motion. I was not at all surprised by the betrayal.
You called that almost
Kai.
Immediately.
I was like, oh, he's too shady. He's got no...
He like on screen, like, that's the guy who's going to betray them. I'm like,
yeah.
Could you stop doing this?
He has no vested interest in any of this, so why is he offering to help? He even says
he doesn't. He's like, I'm going to be a good guy now. And he's like, oh, God. Here.
Yeah. He had no vested interest. He's just there because he's there.
Did you like that they went to a cantina to find a pilot?
I loved that. And that somebody had to come up and interfere with them. And
like, the funny thing is...
when he was like, I want your boy there. Give me him for a night. You won't be sorry. I was like, okay, this is even...
Yeah, it got a little more aggressive than Dr. Evazan ever did in the original cantina in Ponda Baba there. But what a different route. He was just,
Yes.
Yeah, just... Okay. But no, the funny thing is, like, you could see some inspiration from Star Wars, but you could see inspiration from a lot of places. I don't know that if you wouldn't have told me ahead of time that, like, this is supposed to be, his Star Wars, I don't know that I get that at all, other than, say, the cantina scene and maybe a few little things. I don't feel like this was like Star Wars at all.
No, not just because definitely had a lot of differences that were very sharp.
Yeah, not just because it was kind of edgier and certainly more, again, sexual assault. You don't tend to see that in Star Wars. So, a little bit more, gritty, shall we say. But no, I didn't really see the Star Wars other than different galaxy and empire. Yes, those kind of things. But, one of my questions I had going into this was, like, is he going to, like, try to make it like a new mythology and new kind of modern day life lesson kind of thing for younger view? No, it's not really like that at all. Not like George Lucas's intent to kind of give, spirituality to the young or anything. This is more like, hey, adults, you want to see something kind of like Star Wars and gritty and action-packed, and that'll slow down from time to time. Here you go.
What do you think about Jimmy?
No, he's the best character.
I literally like Jimmy.
Yeah.
Not only because he's Anthony Hopkins' voice, but I liked hearing his story. I liked hearing the voice of these fighting robots. They fight for their king, and then as soon as they know that their king is dead, they just stop.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
They will not fight anymore because they've lost the will to do so. I thought that was really interesting how these robots, these metal machines, seem to have more heart
than actual people.
Right.
Yeah, more kind of principle, morals in a way. And plus, how he found kind of a new...
he's important.
Well, yeah, he kind of threw... Because he was, obviously supposed to protect the young queen.
The young princess, yeah.
Princess queen, yeah.
All of the Jimmys swore their lives
for her. And then through the girl, I forget her name, like, he kind of finds a new reason to care. And
I think she was Sam.
Sam, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, no, I really liked that. I thought that was probably the best part of the movie. It was the only time I really felt like I got a story. And I'm actually curious to see what comes of the robot more so than any other character.
He's kind of an interesting wild card because at the end they kind of showed him now he's given himself an antlers crown.
Yeah, he's got a crown and he's like, is he the new king?
Has he decided that maybe Sam the girl is like a reincarnation or something of the princess?
That's what I think I think he sees her as the princess and him as the...
she might be too old to be the reincarnation of the princess. Because mind you, this imperial overthrow I think happened about 2 years ago because that's how long our main character, Kora, has been on the run.
Yeah, we know our main character. She's not old either. We can tell it'd be one thing if she were older, but she's clearly quite young. So the time frame here, I know when she was 18, I think she says she kind of was...
She graduated and she was leading a battalion or something?
She's not much older than 18.
She doesn't look super old.
No, so not a lot of time has gone by. It would be very difficult for Sam to be the reincarnation, though the princess might still be alive. Somehow she could bring a bird back to life, so maybe she somehow...
Right, we have no idea. In all the synopsises for Rebel Moon, they're talking about this mysterious power, and I'm like, we didn't really see it.
No, we saw her do one thing.
I do like that there wasn't, like, the Force is rampant throughout this galaxy, too.
No, clearly not, yeah.
It's low. I mean, we had Balsarius adopt her as a child. And originally I thought maybe she's the princess. I mean,
that was our
her
first
family
guess,
was killed, her people are killed, and I'm like, well, maybe she's the princess. No, I was very clearly wrong.
No, yeah.
So she was raised a warrior, which at least we're getting some backstory. How come she's so precise? I mean, she was raised from the nice old age of 5 by a leader of the military to be the strongest warrior she could be.
Yeah. A lot of tropes in this. A lot of them. You could tell the influence. You could tell he was going for something kind of more classic, if you will, storytelling here, but still rather light on the storytelling. I feel like if you would have leaned more into the actual stuff with the princess and her story.
I wanted to know more about that so bad.
Those were the times I was interested. I was interested, Jimmy and his kind of deal and the princess and what's going on with her. But then it's like, we got to find a new team member. And I'm like,
still don't know what happened. Because keep in mind...
Well, that's the problem. I feel like we learned nothing other than here are these characters. Hints, We're going to put some pieces on the board, but we're not actually going to move pieces and do anything of interest.
Look, we got mystery boxed.
Sort of. But a little bit, but I wouldn't even call it a mystery box as much as it was just set up for something, hopefully good.
Right. I mean, there was even a trailer for the second part up already on Netflix. So I'm like, oh, look, definitely going to have a fight coming. Definitely.
Yeah, well, I was also, a little confused about some of the motivations. I have to assume that they knew that the moon, people living on the moon, had actually helped the rebellion already, or the resistance, whatever they call them.
I assume that is the case.
Because why do you come there we need 10,000 bushels of grain? You have a massive army. What is 10,000 bushels of grain gonna
this one little farming village?
This one little farming village, 50 people, 100 people. It was well, why are you doing this?
I feel like
you
they had a thought that this is where it came from.
Yeah,
and that they were just trying tracking their lead, trying to freak them out into telling them stuff, which Gunnar fell for.
Yeah, well, and then you're like, well, we're going to defend this. Well, they're not just going to come one time. They're gonna come back, and even if you win, it's not like they're going to be like, well, you won, so we're going to leave you alone from now on.
Right. There's a lot of if, ands, or buts.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm like, I get what you're going for, but it doesn't make a ton of sense necessarily.
But they're trying to be the spark of the rebellion.
I know. I get that too. Once you get a big win, more people join. I get that. I get that.
Okay.
But at the same time, I'm like, you really think the mother world is going to care about this village of 100 people? Are they looking at that? Especially when they said, well, if you do this for us, we'll give you money so you can buy new droids or whatever to tend to the crop. So, in theory, why don't they just come there, kill everybody, and set up some droids and those troops and farm the land?
Because droids won't farm it right.
See, I would make a good space Hitler. I would just do it right. I wouldn't even bother with the whole...
Some of my biggest questions, though, come from the backstory we're getting from Kora. Because they did not tell us, obviously, what happened exactly when the princess was killed, when her family was killed.
No, they told us nothing, which was part of the problem.
We knew that she empathized and liked the princess and thought maybe this could be real change for the galaxy. Maybe the endless wars against all these other kings and territories is finally going to be over. And we're like, okay, she believes. She's become a believer. But all we know is that the family and the princess all supposedly died. Now...
Yeah, we didn't get a story. We got set up for a story. We got some mystery boxes, I guess, too.
We know that her adopted daddy, Balsarius, dubbed himself as the regent after that king died, just took over everything. Yep. Do we think he was the one who actually set up this coup, perhaps? Or do you think somebody else there was an assassination? Did they pin the assassination on her? Is that why she deserted and ran off?
We don't know why what happened to make her run off. We know she's the most wanted person in the galaxy.
Whole galaxy, which or just universe, a plain old deserter wouldn't be.
I wish they wouldn't have gotten universe too. It should have been galaxy. Universe is just way too massive. But that's a little pet peeve of mine whenever they do universe. That's just
he's already just setting up that he wants big space. Yeah.
Well, that's incomprehensible. Galaxy is incomprehensibly big, so universe is just excessive. Anyway, minor nitpick.
So, there's so many questions. Did she save the princess and hide her somewhere when she deserted? Is that why he wants her back alive so badly? Did she not follow orders? Does she just know the truth about what happened and he needs her to...
Be silenced?
Did somehow, and this was our offshoot, our long shot, did she die to protect the princess? And the princess maybe brought her back to life. Somehow maybe that passed part of her power on or whatever. Did the princess bring her back to life and she escape with the princess and hide her away?
I think that's a good theory, actually.
Mm-hmm. But there are so many questions that I would love to see answers to, and I'm really hoping we get answers in the second half, or he comes out with
I hope
his
we get a
stuff.
story in the second half.
Yeah, because the story was so loose.
There was no
action
story.
sequence to action
There was no
sequence
story
for the most part.
Yeah, it was introductions. It was a giant trailer for the next part.
Yeah, it was
That's
we're getting a team
like.
together. It was let's quick slap the Justice League together.
Yeah.
This was him trying to be once again trying to do the Avengers movie in his first movie.
Yeah, it kind of did feel like that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Jumping further ahead than he should.
We go straight from Batman v Superman to the Avengers.
Yeah,
and he went straight to the Avengers. He says, you know what? People like big collabs. Just put them all together. I understand that they had to hurry up because they only had like 10 months to get the group together to get back. So we know time passed.
Yeah, because the grain was
growing. Yeah. But I'm curious to see where they go, how this continues, because there's obviously going to be a big battle to come.
I'm curious. I enjoyed it. That doesn't mean I thought it was good necessarily. I enjoyed it. I mean, those can be different. You can have a subjective kind of personal view and an objective take on something.
I'll probably watch this again before
I probably will. I enjoyed it, but I don't think it was very good, to be completely honest with you. This is not a Star Wars killer, in my opinion. Like, this has a long way to go before it would be something that you could stack alongside Star Wars and say, you have a rival now. If that's what the intent even is. I don't necessarily think that's like the intent per se. I think this is Netflix wanting their own kind of franchise because they've talked about wanting that before.
Right. If this story, when he pitched it to companies, because he pitched it to more than just Disney.
He
obviously.
He shopped it around.
If this was supposed to be, if this was like written and everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is the Star Wars killer, don't you think it would have gotten a wide theatrical release?
Yeah.
That a regular company would have said, hey, Zack Snyder, we want you to produce this. We want to go ahead. We're going to greenlight your project. Instead, it got down to Netflix buying it.
Yeah.
Because Netflix was probably not his first stop.
I don't think so. I think he wanted this to be a theatrical release, of course. I mean, I think
most directors...
they would want to have it on the big screen. But we do have the director's cut coming, too, of this.
We'll see how that goes. Will there be
Maybe
more
that
story
will be better.
or just
Maybe
more
it'll just be longer. Yeah, probably just more slowdown.
More slow.
It'll actually be shorter. No, it'll still be longer. What am I thinking? But we'll see. Again, I didn't hate it.
No.
I thought it was all right. I'm interested, but you really would need to knock part 2 out of the park to get me like hooked into this universe. Well, I guess for now, that's going to be all we got for you this time. Now it is your turn to take to the comments below and tell us what you thought of Rebel Moon. Or you can check out our other channel if you enjoy this video. We do a lot like this over there. Whatever the case may be, leave those comments below. Let's talk some Rebel Moon. And until next time, thanks for watching.